Hi, I'm Ken, and this is a short video on how I teach students how to find the highest common factor and lowest common multiple of two numbers. So just getting into this quickly, we're going to find all the factors of 20. So this isn't hard, but in my experience, a lot of students struggle with this. I've done a video exclusively on how you find factors and multiples. Those are all the factors of 20. Those are all the numbers that go in. Not to be confused with the multiples of 20, which are the 20 times table. So factors go into the number and multiples are that number's times table. Now, if we do the same for 30, what we will notice is that they have some common factors and they have some common multiples. So these are the factors of 30. And if we look, they have some factors in common. 1 is common to both, as is 2, as is 5, as is 10. Now 10 is the highest common factor. What that means is it's the biggest number that goes into both of them. 10 goes into 20 and 30, and there is no bigger number that goes into both. Now if we do the multiples of 30, we'll also spot some numbers that are in both times tables. Actually, I didn't carry on my 20 long enough, but if you look, 120 is in both, as is 60. 60 is the first number that's in the 20 times table and the 30 times table, and that is the lowest common multiple. So the lowest common multiple of 20 and 30 is 60. Okay, so the quick way of doing this, and the way I teach my students now, is if we're finding the highest common factor and lowest common multiple of 20 and 30, which we've already done, what I do is I get them to write it as a fraction. And then what I get them to do is to simplify the fraction. Now, this should be a skill everyone's got. Simplifying fractions we've probably been doing for years. And you might spot that because both numbers end in 0, we can divide them both by 10. And if they can both be divided by 10 and by nothing else, then the highest common factor must be 10. And what I really like about this method is once you've done that, to get the lowest common multiple, you simply times the diagonals together. So either 30 times 2, which is 60, or it doesn't matter if you pick the other diagonals. So 20 times 3 also gives you the lowest common multiple. It's also 60. Okay, let's do this with two different numbers. Let's do this with 60 and 72. So I would encourage my students to write it as a fraction, so 60 out of 72, and I'd get them to simplify the fraction. So it's up to you how you do this. You might spot straight away a really big number that goes into both, or you might just think, you know what, they're both even, so I'm going to halve them and get 30 out of 36. From here, they might spot, I can divide them both by 6 and get 5 out of 6. From here, it doesn't simplify any further. There are no more common factors. But the highest common factor, so the biggest number that goes into both 60 and 72, is 2 times 6. So we times the numbers we divided by together. So the highest common factor is 12. And to get the lowest common multiple, we could do 72 times 5. And it's always worth checking, does the other diagonal give you a better way of doing it? I think it does. 60 times 6 is much easier to do. So the lowest common multiple is 360. Okay, let's do this again with 75 and 105. So bear in mind, this could come up on a calculator paper. You could have a calculator for this, in which case you can just type 75 out of 105 into your calculator and push equals. That'll do it very nicely for you. Without a calculator, we're maybe looking at this and thinking, well, I know I can divide them both by 5. So we get 15 over 21. And then we might spot, 3 goes into both. And we get 5 out of 7. So to find the highest common factor, we multiply the two numbers we divided by. It could be 3 numbers you divided by, but in this case, it's 5 times 3. So the highest common factor is 15. So the lowest common multiple will be 5 times 105, which is 525, or we could multiply the other diagonal, which would be 75 times 7, which will also give us 525. Again, just pick the way that you find easiest to do that.